Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
All right, so James Talarico went on Stephen Colbert's show last night, and the segment ended up not being aired by CBS. CBS decided not to air James Talarico's interview with Stephen Colbert, and it, according to Stephen Colbert, is because of the FCC and them fearing pushback from them. So essentially saying that this is a decision that CBS made preemptively to avoid retaliation from the administration. So this is just clear, not only censorship on the part of the company, but also political interference. And this is the result of the administration interfering in the way that it has with Colbert's show, etc. But also we know what CBS is becoming and the direction it's going in. And so this is perfectly aligned with that. And there's just no shame about the fact that they want to suppress a candidate like James Talarico and prevent him from reaching that many people. So, I mean, this is a tough race. He's in the primary race in Texas where they hope to flip a Texas Senate seat to Democrats. Very tough thing to do. Him and Jasmine Crockett are competing for that, and things like this only help him spread his narrative. So here's some clips from Stephen Colbert's show, and then we'll get into some of the stuff that he had to say afterwards.
Across the state, there is a backlash growing to the extremism and the corruption in our politics. And I have traveled every corner of Texas already, from El Paso to Beaumont, from Amarillo to Brownsville. And we've had thousands of Texans showing up to rally with us. And I can't tell you the number of people who come up to me at the end of these events and whisper, "I'm not a Democrat," like it's some kind of secret. And we've recruited 14,000 volunteers who are out there doing the work all over our state. This is one of the most exciting parts. We have shattered grassroots fundraising records, all without taking a dime from corporate PACs. And so this is really it's a people-powered movement to take back our state and take back our country. And I feel like we're building something really special in Texas, and clearly Donald Trump has taken note. This is the party that ran against cancel culture, and now they're trying to control what we watch, what we say, what we read. And this is the most dangerous kind of cancel culture, the kind that comes from the top. They went after The View because I went on there. They went after Jimmy Kimmel for telling a joke they didn't like. They went after you for telling the truth about Paramount's bribe to Donald Trump. Corporate media executives are selling out the First Amendment to curry favor with corrupt politicians. And a threat to any of our First Amendment rights is a threat to all of our First Amendment rights. Well, for 50 years, the religious right, a political movement, that is the perfect description for it, they convinced a lot of our fellow Christians that the most important issues were abortion and gay marriage. Two issues that aren't mentioned in the Bible, two issues that Jesus never talked about. Jesus in Matthew 25 tells us exactly how you and I and every one of our fellow believers, how we're going to be judged and how we're going to be saved. By feeding the hungry, by healing the sick, by welcoming the stranger. Nothing about going to church, nothing about voting Republican. It was all about how you treat other people. I've said before, don't tell me what you believe, show me how you treat other people, and I'll tell you what you believe.
There's been some attention on your race in recent weeks after a TikToker that you met in person says that you privately said to them, and I'm gonna get this quote that they attribute to you, right? This person says, you said, "I signed up originally to run against a mediocre black man, not a formidable and intelligent black woman." Supposedly in reference to Colin Allred being the black man, and you've denied this.
Yes.
Okay. You denied that you ever said that.
That's correct.
Okay. Allred continues to talk about it, even though he's no longer running for the Senate, correct?
Right.
So where does that stand? How do you, as someone who this person says this about you, you say it didn't happen, how do you imagine this gets adjudicated, and what would you like to say to people?
Yeah, I mean, we know that misinformation spreads on the internet, and it's sometimes like a game of telephone. As I said in my statement, I did critique Colin Allred's campaigning as mediocre, but I would never attack him on the basis of race. I respect Colin Allred deeply, even though we have disagreements on the best way to campaign and the best way to win Texas. My job in this moment is to try to lower the temperature, is to try to remind us that we are all on the same team, trying to change the politics of our state and change the politics of our country.
Have you spoken to Colin Allred?
I have. I call them after all this stuff came out and everything started to blow up, just to reiterate what I said in my statement, that I do respect him.
And how did that conversation go?
I don't want to reveal anything in a private conversation, but I hope that he and I walked away with a better understanding of each other.
All right, so there's Talarico on Colbert, and that's his typical message of aiming at the billionaire class and the extremely wealthy, and how that has cut into social and public life in America, and making that seem like a surmountable issue. He also is asked by Colbert about this scandal, this fake scandal, where essentially Talarico was accused by a content creator who claimed that she met him once of saying something racist about another candidate that is no longer even running. And it's really just a lame attempt at a smear, because it doesn't read like something that Talarico or anybody would say. In fact, it reads kind of like something that Jasmine Crockett would say, or it just feels very manufactured in that way. Saying, I thought I was going to be running against a mediocre black man, which is similar language that Jasmine Crockett has used in the past. And also this thing about how she is a competent and strong black woman. It's just the way she would characterize herself. So it seems like a little bit of like trying to be clever. Let me try to make the opponent look bad while also claim that he's saying nice things about me. It's just a little bit weird. And I don't know, this TikToker, maybe she's directly affiliated with the campaign, or maybe she just randomly did this and it blew up. It could go either way. But this goes back into the thing that I've been talking about on the past couple pods about Hassan, where you have all this like liberal pushback all of a sudden to the idea that anybody would want to run any kind of left-wing or left-leaning campaign, and acknowledging the fact that like anti-billionaire politics is clearly the mainstream. That's clearly the meta at the moment. And it's the only message that's powerful enough to really cut through the muck and the bullshit and all of the negative associations that people have with politics at the moment. So James Talarico is a candidate that understands that. And I've spoken favorably about Jasmine Crockett too. I think in terms of political talent, she's one of the more interesting people out there. I do think that she has an interesting way of cutting through the noise herself. But the problem with her is that her political affiliations, she has not taken as strong of a stance. Even you see with Talarico here, he says, we've been able to break these fundraising records without any corporate PAC money. And that is the kind of thing that makes for a true winning grassroots campaign. And so Jasmine Crockett, if she's not going in that direction, what she wants to do is win a more typical campaign and take some of that corporate money, take some of that crypto money, and win on a more, frankly, generic Democratic platform, but with the style that she's delivering it in. And so I'll get back to her and the dynamic between them in a little bit, because I think it is important to talk about. I know they both have supporters, and the primary is coming up soon. But really, this is just great publicity for Talarico. The timing for this is great. And it seems like a decision that CBS made, but an informed decision based on what they think the administration is likely to give them pressure over. So here's a little bit of what Stephen Colbert had to say about it on his show. This is the part that actually aired, whereas the interview with Talarico did not.
You know who is not one of my guests tonight? That's Texas State Representative James Talarico. I want to assure you, this decision is for purely financial reasons. And this doesn't just affect interviews. The rules forbid any candidate appearance, including by voice or picture. That's right, I am absolutely not allowed to show a photo of Texas State Representative James Talarico. And because that's not him. A couple of weeks ago, on Carr's orders, the FCC opened an investigation into ABC's The View after their James Talarico interview. That is absolutely shocking. James Talarico did The View before my show? too will pay. So I cannot show you any form of James Talarico. I can't interview James Talarico. I can't show any pictures of James Talarico. I'm not even sure I can say the words James Talarico.
Yeah, so that is so bizarre, the thing about the picture, because when he initially put that up, I was like, do they realize that that's not the guy? I don't know if that's generated with AI or something like that. And then he later in the segment acknowledges that they had to put that fake picture up of him because they're not allowed to show a picture of the guy. So I want to be clear that that doesn't mean the administration told them that. What that means is that the company, CBS, which we already know is right-leaning, they are one of the more desperate to please Trump on the current media scene. And they imposed the restriction on Colbert that he cannot show that picture on their own platform. So what I don't understand is why that is so binding, because Stephen Colbert is already leaving and he keeps referencing that. He's kind of going like no fucks given mode, but he's still doing the show. And I guess the logic is that they could pull him off the air in a second if they want and everybody loses their job and it's no good. Maybe they could sue him. But it seems like if they're imposing last minute restrictions on like you can't show a certain political candidate's face, even though you're already scheduled to interview him, and we are putting out this content on our platform, but you can't air it. So what that means is that they don't want James Talarico to reach a national audience. And that's important to recognize because this is not a national race. This is a Senate primary. And so what they're acknowledging is that because Talarico has separated himself from corporate power, some of the biggest leverage that he has is being able to reach people on a broad basis, having a broad national network of support, especially monetary support. Now, in the last leg of the race, it's more important that he reaches people in Texas and gets an enormous amount of support from Democrats in Texas, or I guess people willing to register as Democrats in time for this primary. But I think it's very telling and very interesting that even in the case of The View, like Colbert is talking about, the administration did go out of its way to retaliate against the network for platforming James Talarico. So it shows that they're paying attention to his politics, and that specifically his politics is a threat to the Trump administration. And while Trump may or may not be aware of that or have any real understanding of that, what it means is that Brendan Carr is going out of his way as chairman of the FCC to run interference for Trump. So we already knew that, but now we're seeing what that means. And even in the case of Jimmy Kimmel, where it kind of the decision got reversed because it was so blatant and in front of everybody's face, you still see this behind the scenes effort to put pressure on these networks. And in some cases, it's working. So Stephen Colbert is throwing some swings, and it's good. I think it's good for him to go out blazing on CBS because that'll probably help him leverage into some other platform somewhere else. And as far as Talarico goes, I think, like I said, this is the best thing that the Trump administration could have done for him, because his biggest challenge is that he has a lot of establishment forces stacked against him, and it's the combination of a Jasmine Crockett campaign that wants to sort of utilize race against him, and the sort of Zionist lobby that doesn't like him because he's spoken against that, as well as various billionaires and interests that are obviously going to target him because he's targeting them directly. And so that is the future of American politics. It's either going to sweep in this next election, or it's going to continue a struggle against whatever the coalescing forces of power in this country are for a long time. The thing about Jasmine Crockett is that she could run a much closer campaign to James Talarico than she's doing. And if she were to do that, then she would be an incredibly formidable candidate in the general, for sure. The problem is she's not going to do that, and the reason she's not going to do that is because who she has taken money from. It's that simple. And I know that there's people out there who might want to support her, like her, or support her over James Talarico, and don't want to really think it's that simple, or don't want to believe that, or think that that is, has something to do with bias against her. But the reality is, the thing that I like about James Talarico is not his personality. It's nothing aesthetic about him. It's the fact that he is correctly identifying the problem with our society currently and has an approach that both, I think, could be effective on a policy level, but also rhetorically has the power to get some people to understand what this left-wing populist anti-oligarchy message is about. And Jasmine Crockett, again, also has the ability to do that. But it's the fact that she has no interest in doing that makes me not support her as a candidate. And regardless of if you like James Talarico or you think that he really did something racist against her or whatever, if she does become the candidate, if she does win the primary, and you want to win and you want to actually flip the seat, then you should want and you should demand from her that she run on a more populist message And take note from somebody like Zoran Mamdani, who even in New York was able to get support from a lot of Trump voters by listening to them about what their concerns were in their immediate life and then folding that into a broader anti-oligarchy message. And the thing that Jasmine Crockett does have going for her that is powerful is she has the same aspect of being embattled. And if she were to be the candidate, she would face all kinds of racist attacks. And the Trump administration would obviously target her in all sorts of ways. So that kind of thing is political currency. It helped Zoran Mamdani win, and it's what a lot of Democrats are banking on in terms of being able to win in like a Trump 2 era, is to be able to be the ones who are standing up against him. And the reality is that will get you pretty far. But in a general Senate election in Texas, it's certainly not going to win you the election. What you need is something more structural and something that is a real bold promise that can make your average person, whatever their affiliation may be politically, say, wow, that's a good idea. I'd never thought of that before. And so I think that's what appeals about James Talarico. I think that's honestly why he attracts the attention of censors and that sort of thing, is because he delivers the message in a way that appeals to a new audience that will get them to see his side of it. And because of the conditions that the Trump administration is creating, even people that may have been previously aligned to him or apathetic about him are going to start to be more open to this anti-oligarchy message. And so a candidate that is able to deliver that and a focus on that does not seem attached to the personality of Trump is going to be much more successful. And the concern with Jasmine Crockett is that she's too focused on personality, and that's just not enough to win in an election like the one that she's in. So, on the topic of censorship, another thing I want to bring up is this age verification thing that's been happening with some online platforms. So this is connected to a broader push in tech related to privacy. And this is an important thing to talk about right now because some of these changes are going to happen. I mean, they're going to happen in some form because there's a decent amount of political demand for it right now. And what's happening is a lot of the companies are figuring out like the most profitable and the most profit-oriented way for them to go about essentially trying to comply with government demands to reduce the amount of illicit material that children are being exposed to. So that is part of the core demand that companies are responding to in trying to do this age verification thing. So some would say that they're just doing the age verification thing to create this sort of broader surveillance model, which everything is already kind of feeding towards. And the thing about age verification and identification online, like say you have to show your ID in order to sign up on YouTube or Discord. What that would mean is that they have access to very sensitive information about who you are. And in the case like we're currently living through right now, where ICE is demanding personal information from large platforms like Google and social media platforms, information about activists, information about immigrants, and those companies are handing that over. So if systematically every user on these platforms was identified by name, where they live, and other personal details, in some cases face scans are what these companies are trying to move towards, that would essentially identify you behind the scenes of that company and to anybody who happens to leak that information or to anybody that they pass it along to. And obviously, we live in a time where some people like Peter Thiel and other billionaires behind these incredibly vast AI network companies, what they're trying to do is feed as much personal information about people into databases as they can so they can kind of control these panopticon things that would be incredibly profitable for them so that the government has to rely on them to spy on people, essentially. So we're already seeing that happen. ICE is already using it, and Israel has been using this technology in Gaza for a long time. And so now they're trying to build up their capacity to use this type of technology against Americans. And so while you have a political demand, a genuine political demand, that these social media companies regulate what is being shown to children and who is on their platform, it incentivizes the social media companies to go about that in a way that they can also profit from on the back end. So there's an opening where there is outrage to be had about this at the moment. People are still upset about ICE. People are still upset about the Epstein stuff. But currently, none of those things are dominating the news cycle. And I'm seeing a little bit more chatter about this concern of online privacy. And you see these attempts happening on a local level across the country, too, like bills modeled after these privacy things trying to change the shape of the internet. So as much as anything, they're taking this as an opportunity to try to shape the internet to favor right-wing reactionary narratives and keep it that way permanently. And there is a bit of a moment here where we can make some noise about this subject specifically because it ties in with the rest of everything that's going on with ICE and Epstein. Epstein, Peter Thiel, they're associated with each other. Peter Thiel was in those files a lot, talking with Epstein about this, how to create this type of cultural influence and control. And so people are aware of this, and it can be tied into narratives about Trump and the Trump administration, but also the broader oligarch class and all of these things, Epstein, ICE, Venezuela, all of it can be used as a cudgel against that class because in all of those cases, they're the ones who are benefiting, and people are starting to realize that.
Me too close to, too much to do. The mission is too crucial. Shout it out from the rooftops until I lose vocals. Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity.